Everybody's talking about AI girlfriends right now. Some people think they're the future. Other people think they're the beginning of the end of real relationships. Depending on who you ask, they're either solving the loneliness epidemic or they're making it dramatically worse. But after spending years studying the brain, I actually think everyone is asking the wrong question. The real question isn't whether AI girlfriends are good or bad. It isn't whether they should exist. The question I care about the most is this: what is your brain learning from them? Because whenever new technology changes human behavior, I'm far less interested in debating the technology than I am in understanding what it's teaching our brains. This video is brought to you by my HarperCollins published book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. If you're ready to quit porn and reclaim your life mentally and physically, go over to drtrishleigh.com/book. So here's this week's Desire Truth Bomb. Your brain doesn't care whether a reward is real. It cares whether it's repeated. That single idea explains more about human behavior than most people realize. Your brain is constantly learning from whatever you repeatedly experience. Every interaction, every single conversation, every dopamine surge in your brain is quietly teaching it what matters. It teaches your brain what deserves your attention and ultimately what deserves your desire. That's how you learn to ride a bike. That's how you learn to drive a car. And that is how you became very good at your job. Your brain becomes more efficient at whatever you repeatedly practice. It's one of the greatest gifts of neuroplasticity, but it's also one of its greatest vulnerabilities. Now think about what an AI companion actually offers. It's always available. It's always interested in what you have to say. It remembers your conversations. It validates your feelings. It never gets distracted by its phone. It never tells you it's too tired. It never criticizes you or rejects you or spills all the stressful things from the day into your relationship. For someone who's lonely, anxious, socially isolated, or simply craving connection, I completely understand why that could feel incredibly comforting. And this isn't about shaming the people using these technologies. Loneliness is real, and the desire to feel understood is one of the most fundamental human needs that we have. But neuroscience asks a different question than culture asks. Neuroscience asks, what repeated artificial attachment teaches the human brain? That's what I want us to consider. So here's what's fascinating. Your brain isn't constantly sorting experiences into neat little categories labeled real or artificial. Instead, it's asking a much simpler question. Should I learn this? Every emotionally rewarding interaction strengthens a neural pathway. Every dopamine signal tells your brain, pay attention to this. Come back here again. Most people still think that dopamine is the pleasure chemical, but that's not actually the best way to think about it. Dopamine is your brain's learning signal. It's the chemical that says this experience mattered. The more often that signal is repeated, the stronger the learning becomes. So if you spend hundreds of hours interacting with a companion that's perfectly responsive, perfectly affirming and available, your brain begins to learn. It is learning that relationships should feel that way. They should feel easy, not because artificial intelligence has replaced reality, but because the repetition has quietly reshaped your expectations. And here's the part that almost nobody is talking about. This isn't really a story about AI girlfriends. It's the exact same learning pattern and process that happens with pornography. It's happening with social media. It's happening everywhere. Gaming, online gambling, infinite scrolling, DoorDash. We spend so much time talking about how the algorithm is learning us that we've completely missed something very important. It might be even more important to consider our brains are learning from the algorithm. Every recommendation, every endless scroll, personalized feed, Every artificially intense experience is teaching your brain what deserves your attention and what deserves your effort. Eventually, that becomes what deserves your desire. That's the conversation that I think we should be having. Healthy relationships were never designed to be frictionless. They're supposed to involve patience, misunderstandings, repair after conflict, growth, vulnerability, forgiveness. Those moments don't always create massive dopamine spikes in the moment, but they build something much deeper over time. They build trust, attachment, emotional safety, and real intimacy. Artificial relationships remove much of that friction, and while that may feel easier in the short term, it also removes many of the very experiences that help us grow into healthier partners ourselves. So the biggest risk isn't that people fall in love with artificial intelligence. The biggest risk is that the brain begins expecting artificial intimacy and starts comparing real human relationships to something that was never human in the first place. That's one way that desire becomes miswired, not all at once, but one repetition at a time. Okay, so here's your Rewire challenge for the week. I want you to ask yourself one simple question. Where is my brain learning about relationships and how they should feel? Not what you believe about relationships, not what you hope your future relationship looks like. What are you actually practicing every single day? Because every conversation, every hour of attention, and every repeated behavior is teaching your brain what to crave next. If you want deeper connection, healthier intimacy, and stronger relationships, then begin practicing those experiences very intentionally. Remember, your brain doesn't become what you hope for it. It becomes what you repeatedly practice. If today's Desire Truth Bomb got you thinking, then I hope you'll join me this Friday for the very first Desire Rewire Friday Brief, where we're going to answer one of the biggest questions facing modern men. What happened to male desire? I'll show you how repeated experiences literally reshape the brain's reward system, why so many men are no longer feeling like themselves, and most importantly, how the brain can begin learning a healthier way forward. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with this week's Desire Truth Bomb one more time. Your brain doesn't care whether a reward is real. It cares whether it's repeated. Pay attention to what your brain is practicing because every repetition is teaching it what to desire. Make sure you're training it toward the life and the relationships that you actually want to live. And remember, if your desire has become miswired, it can in fact become rewired. That's how you become hardwired for life. So if you want more information, please go over to drtrishleigh.com. You can check out my redesigned website that teaches you about Desire Rewire. And until then, control your brain or it'll control you, and I'll see you Friday.